All right, well, let's get a few more questions here on the show.
But I'm free and easy.
You certainly are, and that's why we're going to get a few more questions. This next one, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Geshwin in Durban, South Africa.
What is his name?
Geshwin.
George Geshwin?
Excuse me.
Or
Keshwin.
Ira Geshwin?
Keshwin, excuse me. Keshwin.
Geshwin.
Keshwin. Not Geshwin.
That
Geshwin.
explains it.
Or Gershwin. Not Gershwin either. Wanted to know your thoughts on why Sid Vicious, or Psycho Sid within WWE, doesn't get as much respect as an all-time great when discussing generational talent.
Jesus Christ, what?
This is a man that debuted in a match with Jerry Lawler and Nick Bockwinkel, rose through the indies, had multiple world title reigns, and even headlined WrestleMania twice. Yet he isn't in the WWE Hall of Fame, or any other Hall of Fame for that matter. I know that there is the infamous stabbing of Arn Anderson, but do you think that is what prevents Sid from getting the recognition he deserves? I was absolutely terrified of Sid as a kid, and I think he got the unhinged big guy gimmick down to the T.
Oh, well, yeah, I'll go along with that.
Curious to your thoughts, or if you have any stories you could share about Sid.
You know, Psycho Sid was my fault, by the way. That name.
The spelling or the name?
Well, the name. And Vince liked Psycho, but went with the S for the spelling. So we could spell it with an S. I don't care how you spell it. Because I was registering my dismay that they were bringing him back. Because I said he's a fucking psycho. He stabbed Arn Anderson. He fucking got the whole fight was started by Sid because he was mouthing off about how great he was, and Arn, as he often does with people, verbally put him in his place, and that led to the situation. And I was literally asking Vince, "Are you sure he would bring this fucking psycho?" I like that. But they had to replace the other psycho, the other mental case, the Ultimate Warrior.
But what about his place as a generational all-time great?
Well, I'm just trying to, here's the reason why that Sid got those, and I'm not even knocking Sid as a human being, as a person. I'm just saying the honest to God facts. The reason why he got that spot is because he looked like almost no other human being. Between the size and the body and the face, and the faces, even his promos didn't even have to make sense because he just looked like he meant to rip you in half. And he was tailor-made, especially for Vince and the WWF and the type of talent that Vince liked to push. But he got over in WCW also because of the look and the physical charisma. And remember, when the Skyscrapers, when he was a team with Spivey, we watched, I think it was the Great American Bash, 89 or 90? 89 Bash, wasn't it? With the Skyscrapers.
Yeah, 89 against the Dudes.
Okay, we watched it against the Dudes. Besides the fact that the Dudes were the most unpopular babyface team in history, still, every time Spivey would get in, the people would boo. Every time Sid would tag in, the people would fucking go ballistic. And it was, yes, it was Baltimore. They wanted to fucking, you know, they liked the heels at that point anyway, but Sid, they just loved Sid because they wanted to see him come in, powerbomb people, and leave. It was like a Goldberg thing because of that look and that charisma. His matches were not good enough for him to ever be able to get heat because he couldn't work. He was notoriously difficult for other guys to work with unless you got the fucking... And like Michaels was tailor-made because he could take all the bumps and et cetera, but I saw Bobby Eaton versus Sid one time, and it was fucking like pulling teeth. And he shoved me, just a double hand shove. And I was like, I'm going to fly backwards forever and not stop. I almost dislocated my elbow trying to put my hands back to catch myself, which is a no-no, but I had no choice. No, his promos, he had no psychology in the business. He could go out and be an impressive giant and powerbomb people. That's why he got over as a raging babyface. I think Vince may have gotten a little bit more heat on him than anybody ever else did as a heel, just the way he booked him and the people he surrounded him with. But Sid couldn't cut a promo where he could get heat on himself. He just looked like the big, mean Sid Vicious ass kicker. And like I said, he was hard to work with, and he couldn't have a match where he told any kind of subtle story to get heat or whatever. It had to be what it was. And I have never heard of any of the talents in the business that have been in the ring with Sid, refer to him as an all-time great. He had and also he had no dedication to the business. From whether it be always wanting to flake off for softball to actually asking Jim Herd to give him softball season off in a contract renegotiation. They'd give him the world title and they'd give him the money he wanted, I think $400,000 a year, but they wouldn't give him softball season off and let him start afterwards. So that's why he went to work for Vince instead. And then with Vince, he several times he would either be injured and milk it longer or whatever till finally Vince said, I'm going to prorate your contract. Instead of paying you your guarantee per week, I'm going to break it up amongst the dates you make versus the dates you don't. And that's when he never came back to the company again. Remember the time in San Antonio, we were doing Raw. He didn't want to come to begin with because he was injured, but Vince said, I'm paying this guy. He can come do a promo, right? So he goes out in the first segment of Raw in San Antonio, 100 fucking degrees in that Joe and Harry Freeman Coliseum. Good God, miserable middle of summer San Antonio. And him and all the other baby faces on the stage do the appearance and the promo, and the big thing's going to be in Seg 8. And I'd had to been the one to call him. Remember, what was his wife's name? Sabrina. Vince told me, he said, call Sid, make sure he's at Raw in San Antonio on Monday. I said, well, he's been off. He's been hurt. He doesn't have to wrestle. He's got to cut a promo. So I call and tell Sabrina, because Sid was off with the softball. That's legitimately what she said. He's taken the softball team over to West Memphis. I said, he's got to be in San Antonio Monday. Oh, he's hurt. I said, to do a promo. Vince, they're going to send him his plane ticket. He's supposed to be there Monday to do the promo. He doesn't have to work. And she said, well, he's not going to like it because he hadn't been able to work out in several weeks. He doesn't think he looks good. I said, I don't think Vince cares. Vince instructed me to say he has to be there. So then he shows up in San Antonio. He goes out the first segment on the stage. He's seen by the people. And then Seg 8 comes for the fucking interview. And where's Sid? Where's Sid? And downtown Bruno, Harvey Whippleman, comes up and says, I just took him back to the hotel. What? He said he felt like he was having a heart attack. I said he felt like he was having a heart attack, so he asked you to take him to the Holiday Inn? He didn't think he looked good because he hadn't been tanning and working out. He didn't want to take his shirt off, and he was mad about coming, and he got an anxiety attack between Seg 1 and Seg 8 and had Bruno take him back to the Holiday Inn. And I think that was the end of that. But no, he's not an all-time, even if he had not stabbed Arn Anderson, nor fucking, become softball crazy or whatever else, he was an attraction because of his look and his physical charisma and that goddamn physique. And he was hard to work with, and nobody really ever enjoyed the process of working with him in the ring. It was something you try to do to make the money.